Hi, welcome to Qatar, or formerly known as Qatar. Today, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Qatar and its educational system. I'm going to begin with the geographic, demographics, political views, the economic resources, the religious and linguistic characteristics. Now, I'm going to attempt to keep this all under 10 minutes. So, first, the geography. Qatar is located in the Middle East part of Asia, and it borders the Persian Gulf area and Saudi Arabia. So if you're familiar with that area, it's a small little country that borders that Gulf. If we're talking about size, it is approximately a little over 11,000 square kilometers. If you put that in perspective with the U.S. states Delaware and Connecticut, it's twice the size of Delaware, but it's smaller than Connecticut. The weather in Qatar is actually mild and pleasant during the winter, but in the summertime it does become very hot and humid. And you can think about that because of the land type and the land features. It's very flat, and then there is a barren desert, the desert that keeps that humidity there. The demographics of Qatar, there are over 2 million people. There's actually 2,444,174 people as of July of this year. And of those people, majority of them are non-Qatari, which means they aren't native or born in Qatari. While their citizens now or reside there, only 12% are Qatari. And the native language is Arabic, and being that so many are non-natives of Qatari, their second language is English. Their political views. It is an absolute monarchy, which means the government where the monarch rules are unhindered. It means without any laws or constitution or legally organized opposition. Now, the civil law, so that's the law that most people abide by. Most people believe in the civil law. But they also have the Islamic law, which is their own personal beliefs and views. The economics in Qatar they're known for their natural gas and oil, and this is the third largest country in the world not the third largest country in the world, but the third largest country in the world that produces or trades their oil and gases. Because this is an Arabic country, most citizens are Muslim, which is 67%. 13% are Christian, Hindu, and 3% are Buddhist, or less than the 1% are folk religion, Jewish, or any other type of religion. Now, this fact here is actually supposed to be 9 deaths. So for out of every 1,000 people, there are only 9 deaths. To me, that linguistic characteristic stood out because that's a lot of people. Now, speaking of the people in Qatar, let's look at the student performance. Student performing in core areas as reading, math, and science. Well, the data studied 15-year-olds, and for reading, the literacy score was 407 points, compared to the average of other countries being 487. So that's an 80-point difference right below the average. In literacy, girls actually perform better than the boys with a difference of 65 points. We can kind of see that same score in the U.S. today. Girls performing better in reading than the boys. In math, we have 414 points compared to the average of 489 points to the other countries. And again, this was different than the U.S. because the girls outperformed the boys with this little difference of 24 points. And the other countries have an average of 5 points higher for boys. So in Qatar, the girls are outperforming the boys in reading and math. And lastly, in science, the score was 419 points compared to the average of 489 points. And once again, the girls performed better than the boys with a difference of 39 points. which is very alarming that the girls are outperforming the boys in both math and science, because in the US, it's the opposite effect. Now, in regards to the children and what they believe in and what they deem as important, there are some qualities that Qatar children believe are important, such as a religious faith. Thrift or saving money is actually not important. That's supposed to be over here. Tolerance and respect for others. That should be important to all countries and all children, and actually all people. Feeling of responsibility. Independence, hard work, and obedience. To me, those are just core values that people and children in Qatar deem as important that they try to follow. Not important would be the self-expression, unselfishness, determination, perseverance. Then the saving money, imagination, and independence. Those are not as important, or while they are important to other countries, those are not as important to our children here in Qatar. And Hostie's framework is the value of the 6 dimensions of the country. And here's Qatar's values. We have 93, score of a 93 in the power distance. Individualism is 25, masculinity 55, and uncertainty avoidance is 80. Long-term orientation and indulgence, they have no score. Now, what this means, power distance is just with the score of 93. That means that the people, they accept a hierarchical order in which everybody has a place and which needs no further justification, really. Individualism with the score of 25, that means that Qatar is just considered a collectivist society. 55 here for masculinity. With a high score on this, it means that the indices and the society will be driven by competition and achievement and success. Uncertainty avoidance, that score of 80. This just means that they have a high preference to avoid the unpredictability. And then there is no score for long-term orientation and the indulgence. Long-term orientation just simply means that they have a past, they have their own past while dealing with the challenges of their present. And the indulgence, that just simply means that they confront humanity now and in the past, is the degree to which small children are socialized. Without socialization, we do not become human. This dimension is defined as the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses. And there is no indulgence for Qatar. And this is basically what I just went over here. People try to control their desires and impulses for indulgence. And now if you think about Qatar in retrospective to the U.S., you see how the U.S. here in purple, they do have indulgence and long-term orientation, while Qatar outsees the empower distance and uncertainty avoidance. All right, and we're going to sum it all up. Leaders in Qatar, they analyze the educational system to build a system that would just simply provide students with the skills that's needed to function in an economic and social life. The education system in Qatar is very highly ranked among other countries in our world. And compared to the U.S. education, there's no comparison to me. The U.S. education is not really valued by our students, while in the country of Qatar, they do value education, and teachers actually are appreciated. Teachers are treated like queens and queens in Qatar, while here in the U.S., not necessarily always the case. They are paid well, and they are wanted. All right, so thank you for attending today's session on Qatar. It's greatly appreciated. Until next time.